Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome back once again to the self-portrait live stream. Coming up on the end of this project, today I'm going to be working on my arm down here, and then I have, I have tomorrow, and then I have Friday, and that is all the time I will have left on this project. It's going to be good to call it complete. The last 2 days will be the polishing, fine-tuning stage, and that's going to be it. So yeah, really come a long way throughout the entire month, and so I'm just going to get started and work on my arm here. I still have a lot of work that I need to do on it. It's a little bit too light for it to be complete, so I'll just get started. And if you guys have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Oh, hey there, Kenny, Urike, and Sergio. Starting a, what was I? I completely lost my train of thought. Before I said hello, I was just saying that, actually, I don't even know what I was saying. I am completely scatterbrained today. Oh, now I remember. I'm starting early today. I was ready to go, so 15 minutes early. I'm sure you guys don't mind not waiting any longer, because I know a few of you pop on here pretty early and wait for me to start. So here I am, ready for your questions. Hello, Lillian and Lindy. Very happy to see you guys here. Appreciate you coming by. Don't forget to give the live stream a thumbs up for me. I know I've been forgetting to mention that the previous few days of the live streams, so I figured I'd just say it now and get it out of the way. Yesterday I had a little bit of a mishap. I don't know if you can see. It looks like a highlight on the camera, at least on my screen it does. But I went to add highlight with my white pencil, and I didn't check the tip of the pencil, and it had a couple specks of black, which is a very bad thing. And I went to highlight it, and I smeared a speck of black across my cheek. And at this stage, it's not forgivable in any way whatsoever. When you have this many layers down on the paper, it doesn't want to erase, and it will not cover up. I mean, fortunately, it wasn't like a really dark streak of black, because I am using a very light amount of pressure at this point in time with any layering that I do beyond this stage. But it was enough that it showed up very clearly, and so I did everything that I could after I got off the live stream to try to pick it up. And what I ended up doing here is I used my kneaded eraser. This is pretty much the best option that I had. And you can see I picked up a little bit of the pencil, and that's why it's a bit brighter than it should be. And I just took like a little ball of it, and I just pressed it onto the paper like this. So I'm showing you this so that not only you know how I did it, but if you maybe make the same mistake. So if you leave the kneaded eraser onto the paper like this, and then you start to curl it back, you're going to get the most lift from it. Sometimes your kneaded eraser will stick, and that's okay. I'm trying to get it to stick. It doesn't want to stick, but sometimes it will stick and kind of fall apart. This one is not doing it, probably because I have done it several times and there's not a lot for the kneaded eraser to stick to at this point. So I've kind of picked up as much of the mistake as I possibly could, and you know, it's almost completely invisible. I can still see where the mark is in person. You might not be able to see it on camera, which is good. Yeah, so that's what I did from yesterday's awful mistake. And yeah, so I figured I'd just show you how I did it really quick. Yep, Kenny, Detective Pikachu is finally coming to Poland. I won't be watching it this weekend, probably watch it next week. I don't like to go to the movies on the weekend. There's too many people, and I don't like people, so I tend to only go to the movies on Wednesdays, like today, which is not happening today. I don't even remember what movie my wife and I were gonna go watch today. We were gonna go watch something, but she doesn't want to go on date night tonight because of the dietary restrictions that we put upon ourselves this month. And so I was like, okay, well, if we're not gonna go watch a movie and stuff, let's at least go grocery shopping. So that's our date night tonight, is just to go to the grocery store and get some tasty food, and then I will make dinner. Let's see. Yeah, it is a thumbs up this time, Sergio. Oh, hello, Sandri. Do I have any gallery to watch your art? Well, other than my YouTube channel, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for. I mean, I have close to 600 videos available on YouTube. That number goes up to about 1,000 if you are a Patreon member. But I mean, you can just go to my videos on my channel. I have several different playlists, whether it's like time lapses or tutorials, colored pencils or pastels. I even have some paintings that I've done quite some time ago. So I have a whole lot of work on my channel, and it's not all live streams. Instead, and I would say it's mostly not live streams. I don't do the daily live streams all the time, just a couple times usually just once a year, but this time it will be 2 times this year. Alright, let's see, what other color do I need to work with here? I think I need to bring in some oranges into my skin, a little bit of orange. I still haven't added any of my arm hair to this part of the drawing, so that's going to be kind of the ending. Once I get a really solid foundation for the colors, I'll grab my brown pencil, dark brown polychromos probably, and add in some indications of arm hair, and then call it a day. Unless you guys ask me like a whole bunch of really interesting questions. Can't imagine that I'd be live streaming for too long today. Oh goodness, I just as much as I've enjoyed this entire process, I really look forward to like doing something else with my life. My whole life revolves around the live stream when I do them every single day. But I do, I really like live streaming more regularly. It is a lot of fun. I mean, it's tiring, but I think if I were to do it just Monday through Friday, I think it'd be more manageable. I'll have to think about it. My live streams, they don't do as well as my other videos, my like pre-recorded videos, with like one small exception, and that's my pastel tutorials, my live pastel tutorials. Have I done a video with a backlit subject? I mean, the ballerina project on Patreon, that's a backlit subject. I mean, it's partially backlit and overhead, like an overhead light and then a backlight. But maybe I'm not totally clear on what you mean backlit. Like, how are you defining backlit subject? Like a silhouette? Because I've done plenty of silhouettes. How does your art inspire you? Maybe the question is I'm not sure I understand the question. Like, where do I get my inspiration from to do art? Is that the question that you're trying to allude to? That is actually a relatively easy question, because I get inspired from everything at any given point. There's really no one thing. It's just a kind of an infinite stream of inspiration. And I don't sometimes I seek inspiration, and other times it just, I happen upon it. Like, I like to just browse photos on reference sites and just look at pictures. And pictures of landscapes, of still lifes, of people, and sometimes I get inspired by a landscape, sometimes it's a still life, just all kinds of different subjects and colors and everything. So there's just an infinite stream, because I'm always looking at pictures in my spare time, just to find the next thing that I just have to draw or paint. Well, the Lion project on Patreon is brightly lit from the sun that's behind it. Maybe you'd have to send me a picture for me to get a better idea as to what you're trying to allude to. Because your description, I'm not sure if I'm picturing it the way that you're thinking I'm picturing it. So I'm having a difficult time saying for sure. I mean, I've done subjects in many different types of lighting, and yeah, I'm trying to come up with what you're describing, but I'm not sure if I am able to visualize exactly what you're referring to. Am I planning to do a pastel live stream again soon? Would love that. Well, I do pastel live streams every Tuesday over on my Patreon page. And as well as I do colored pencil live streams, and those are specific. Those are specifically tutorial projects that I do on Patreon, and you get access to those live streams for $5 a month on Patreon. But I'll still do an occasional like live stream pastel project here on YouTube for everybody. So I'll still do that eventually. But I don't have anything planned like right now. Hey there, Chrissy. Good to see you. Oh, thank you, Helen. Yeah, the Raven pastel tutorial or pastel project that we started on Patreon yesterday. I think I'm gonna really enjoy that project as well. I finished up the lion from the previous week. Yeah, I did a little bit of fine tuning and not a lot. I had mentioned that I was going to do some work off screen, but nothing major, like nothing that I didn't cover in the actual project live streams. And it came out pretty good. I'll be releasing a narrated tutorial version of it probably next week. Most likely next week. See how quickly I can get that video done. Now I'm just toning my skin, bringing in some much needed reds. I need to do a little bit more detail on my knuckles and maybe just a little bit on my fingernails, but my knuckle lines need a bit more contrast to them. My hand in general really needs a little bit more contrast. Since I'm also drawing and not processing a question, what would you describe the most dangerous situation I've ever been in? The most dangerous situation I've ever been in. I mean, I've skydived a few times. I mean, the difference between life and death there is just a parachute, thin piece of plastic or whatever. But I mean, skydiving is relatively safe, and it's not scary. There was, when I was in the military, there's this small strait over in the Middle East that goes to the Arabian Gulf. I probably will mispronounce it, but I think it's called the Strait of Amus or something along those lines. I don't quite remember the pronunciation of the name, but you know, there's been some attacks on ships in that area in the past, and when we when we go through, we have we have battle stations when we go through, which means that the whole entire ship is prepared for an attack. We had like one like speedboat start to come up towards the boat, you know, and you know sometimes there'll just be like a small boat. Somebody rides up to the side of the ship and just you know blows up. Um, that was probably that was probably realistically the most dangerous because I have no control over it. You know, it's just you know if somebody comes up and you know uh, places an explosive next to the ship, I have no control of where they do it or whatnot. So it could be a pretty dangerous situation. So that might be the most danger I've ever been in. I can't really think of much else. There was this one time, my friend and I, we were we were climbing up this kinda cliff thingy. Um, it was more like a coal hill. Like it was really loose rocks, and we were climbing up it, and we were probably somewhere around like 40, 50 meters up this somewhat mountain. It's not really a mountain. It was just like a cliff, I guess. It was just a cliff, but it had a pretty steep incline of mostly like this looser rock stuff, and then when you get up closer towards the peak, it goes straight vertical and somewhat inverted with this sandstone. And we had climbed up to where it starts to go vertical. We weren't using ropes or anything. I think I was only like 14 or 15 at the time, but we were trying to circumnavigate the vertical part and get up to the peak around the side. But the issue, um, well, what ended up happening was that as we were moving across the face of this really steep hill, you know, we were just holding on to rocks, and I had grabbed onto like a bunch of rocks with my left hand, and they just crumbled, and there was no, you know, I was hanging from these rocks, so there was really no way to catch myself after these rocks crumbled in my hand. So I completely lost footing because you know I'm hanging off these rocks and they crumble away from my hand, and so I just start falling down this rocky hill, and it wasn't like I wasn't hitting rocks on the way down. I mean, I fell. I was flipping and rolling, and I remember at one point I was completely airborne. There was, you know, it's not like a perfectly flat hill or anything. It's just, you know, rocks and stuff. And there was a point where this bigger rock like came out, and I could see myself rolling towards this. You know, I don't know if you've ever spun in circles really fast, but you know, you can still kind of somewhat gauge where you're at. And so my plan was if I can just kind of try to maneuver my momentum towards this larger rock, I might be able to grab onto it and not completely fall all the way down to the bottom. And I ended up being able to roll just right into it to where I could catch the top of it with my foot, but my momentum was too fast. And so what ended up happening is I was able to catch my foot on it, but it ended up throwing me off the hill. So instead of catching and stopping, I ended up like full flipping over the rock, down even further the hill. Eventually, I was able to stop rolling and kind of just go a little bit prone. and like just dig my hands into the gravel and just kind of grind myself to a stop. I mean, that was probably one of the most scariest incidences I've ever had. I don't really know, you know, looking back, I don't really know if I was really in that much danger, but I suppose maybe I could have been. I mean, I certainly could have fallen a little bit farther. Um, I fell about the third of the way down from what we had climbed. Um, I had some pretty, I had some pretty gnarly scrapes, but I didn't have any broken bones or I didn't have any lacerations. So overall, it wasn't that bad of a fall in terms of my injuries, but it was still pretty scary. Yeah, that was an interesting question. Wasn't expecting that question. I don't know if I've ever shared that story before. Trying to think if there was any other ones. Don't can't really can't really recall much dangerous situations, or I guess what I would perceive as dangerous. Was my family affected by the tornado in Ohio? I did not even know there was a tornado in Ohio, so I'm gonna go with no. I would have. I was talking to my sister uh, a lot yesterday, and I had not heard anything from her, uh, and I think it would have come up had there been any issues. Most likely it wasn't in my family's area because there's where my family is located. There's a lot of hills. This is more eastern Ohio. There's a lot of hills, and tornadoes struggle with hills because they can't go over hills. Hills break the wind up so that it prevents most of the time it prevents tornadoes from ever actually even touching down. Because there have been several funnel clouds that I experienced as a kid, and there was even one semi-destructive tornado. I think when I was in high school, and it was like the first time in like 20 years or something crazy. I don't know. It was the first time in a long time that in that area a tornado had even like touched down. So, uh, yeah, usually the tornado stuff isn't an issue where I come from in my part of Ohio. But I didn't even know that there was a tornado in Ohio. So you're the first person to even mention it. How do you imagine this big family you have founded behaving in a face-to-face situation where everyone would be able to meet and interact? Honestly, I think it'd be like the greatest thing ever to happen. I have no doubt that the people that I've brought together through my channel are some of the nicest and most lovely people you could ever meet in person. And so I imagine that if I were to somehow miraculously organize a fan meetup, that it would it would be one of the best meetups that you could possibly go to. Yeah, I have little doubt in that. I may have not said it too recently, but I've said it many, many times. I I wholeheartedly feel as though I have the best subscribers on YouTube, because I have no issues during my live streams or anything like that with people being disrespectful in any way. And a lot of the people that I have brought together get to know each other. Um, I mean, just take for instance Chrissy and Wendy. They're live streaming together later this day, and they met through my channel through Inktober, I think Inktober of 2017. I'm not even sure. I don't think it was last year's Inktober. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been friends with several of my more prominent active subscribers on Facebook for several years, and you know, it's always nice to get to know new people and just inspire one another and become friends. So yeah, I have no issue saying that I have the best subscribers on YouTube, because it's more than subscribers. It's just friends. It's just straight up friends. And if I was in the area, I have no doubt that we would meet up for lunch or dinner or something along those lines. Have I watched the movie Twister? Yes, I have. Uh, yeah, a meetup would be totally awesome. Yeah, that's why I called the Facebook, the Unmask Facebook group. That's why I call it the Unmask family, because that's what I truly feel like it has become. Uh, just a wonderful place for people to interact with one another, and just get to know each other. It's my YouTube channel has far exceeded what I ever expected it to become. I had no intention of creating what has happened. I did not do it intentionally, so I can't take credit for it. Um, that's why I'm so grateful to my subscribers and supporters, because really none of this happens without them. I'm just the conduit in which the family runs through. So I'm honored to be that person, but I can't take credit for it, because I'm not the one that made you guys great people. I just happen to be lucky enough that you found my platform, uh, the place that you want to interact with other people on. So that's really all I've done is created the space, but you guys are all the good stuff that fills the space up. So all right, I think I can do maybe a little bit of highlighting in a moment. I kind of feel like I want to do another blend with solvent. I don't know, part of me feels like my arm is not smooth like the rest of the drawing. But maybe it's just the light colors, because the texture is a little difficult to hide. But I'll try to smooth it out like one more time with the solvent. Very, very small amount of solvent. Funny story, first time I had actually watched one of your tutorials, your smile and overall positive attitude freaked me out. um, that's interesting, yeah. Well, I can't blame you. It would probably freak me out a little bit too. But I'm glad you came back. Gave me a second shot. I do appreciate that. And now look at you. You're here. You're like the first person here every day. Now you're starting to creep me out. Alright, let's do a little bit of dry brushing. Try to smooth this skin out even more. I say dry brushing because after I dip it in solvent, I use a paper towel or a tissue to pull all the solvent off of the brush so it doesn't wipe away my color. Yeah, Kenny, you're probably one of the most popular subscribers among all the subscribers. I think just about everyone knows you, Kenny. You probably have more fans than I do at this point. You've been coming to the live streams what feels like a really long time, like 2 years or something. I lose track of time, so I could be totally off there, but I always recognize you in the chat when you're able to make it. Oh, hey, what's up, Cece? I hope you did your homework last night. The homework I gave you. Yep, Kenny sure is famous. Yeah, I know it's been a long time since I've been here. That's one of the things that I just love to see. That's like one of the things that just keeps me so motivated is the people that have been sticking around for such a long time and I've just gotten to know and have conversations with. It's almost like I actually know you. And if I were to go and see you and meet you in person, like it wouldn't even be like meeting a new person. It would just be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Good to see you." I essentially would start the conversation with the same stuff that I would say if I was going to meet somebody that I already know, like, or I've known for a long time. Just like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Give them a hug or whatever. Because I like hugs. I'm a hugger. I like to hug my friends and family. Um, so, I mean, All right, I think I can start adding my arm hair, as weird as that sounds. I think it's time. And I'm just gonna use, let's see here, I think I might just use this Prismacolor. This is a nice brown color. Let's see. Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, I can't really wait for the project to be done. It's been fun though. You know, I've enjoyed the process, and it's definitely one of the most intensive colored pencil projects that I feel like I've done in a long time. So I think it might be the most colored pencil on a single piece of paper that I've ever done. You know, like fully burnished from like corner to corner. So, yeah, it's been a trying project. This might not be the exact color that I need. This one looks a little bit too red. So I'm going to set that aside. I might use that color later on, but I think I need something not so red. This might be it. Yeah, this is the color that I'm looking for. Oh, thank you so much, Artistica. Oh, that's funny, Sergio. Yeah, I had a friend back in Washington, um, and he'd always shake my hand, and it drove me nuts until one day he went to shake my hand, like I was leaving or something, or I arrived, I can't remember. But he went to shake my hand. I slapped his hand out of the way, and I said, "You got to quit shaking my hand, okay? We're way too good of friends for you to be shaking my hand. We're not doing a business deal." Um, and I was like, "You gotta give me a hug, because it feels freaking weird." It feels freaking weird for you to be shaking my hand. Um, but you know, I never really was a hugger. I never really was a hugger, and then there was just something that changed, and I was like, you know what? I I like hugs. I love hugs. I think it's like the greatest feeling in the world to just embrace somebody that you care about. You know. So I'm a hugger now. I don't have many people that I hug, except my wife here in Poland. But when I go home, I hug everybody. I'm not gonna lie, I have never done arm hair before. So I'm just kind of making it up as I go. Usually when I do portraits, I leave out arms and things. And even if I were to have an arm, uh, usually it's too small to concern myself with the details of arm hair. But this time I can't escape it. And to be honest with you, I'm just kind of scribbling in some lines, keeping them as thin as I possibly can, trying to just mimic the hair texture. I don't even know if you can really even see it on camera. Yeah, it is a little odd for a first time. I'll probably call it an early day after I finish my arm here, and then I'll zoom out, give you guys a look of where it's at, and then tomorrow will officially start the polishing stage, and I'll have 2 glorious days to polish the drawing. And I'll probably start with the shirt. There's a few things I see on the shirt that I just want to, fine tune and work out and just make it look better. One of the things that bothers me is this sleeve right here. For some reason, this sleeve it bothers me. So I gotta work on some stuff on this sleeve. And I don't know, I'll probably have this terrible glare on my drawing. I'll probably incorporate a little bit more red and green into it, and just work on it overall. Maybe touch up the highlights a little bit more. Just whatever I feel like, that's what I'll start doing. The changes will be about as minimal as you can imagine. But yeah, we'll just hang out and chat about whatever. Oh yeah, tattoo. I got that in there. That's just the top section here showing up, like this part of the sheath in the sun, just a little bit. The hair here, the hair on my head, or the hair on my arm. I can give you a close up. If you have any technical questions about how to do hair or whatnot, you can always ask me. On the arm, sure. So I'll zoom in a little bit. I think it's still focused, but I'm gonna refocus just to make sure. Yeah, just to make sure the arm is focused. So you're looking at it like super magnified, but essentially what I'm doing, well, first off, the tip of my pencil is as sharp as I can get it, and I'm just kind of swooping down hairs lightly, and giving them a little bit of a curl. For the most part, the hairs don't have any obvious direction. They're just kind of scattered all over the place. So I'm avoiding any pattern. That's one thing that you have to keep in mind. You want to avoid pattern, but most of the hairs, they curl in or they curl out, and so I just give it a little twist, not really paying attention much to the reference photo. There's a few spots where the hair like kind of clumps together a little bit, so I might, like right here, there's a few hairs that kind of come together. And then, so anywhere the hair appears to be a little bit thicker because like 2 or 3 hairs kind of get entwined, I might just put a couple extra hairs overlapping one another there. But that's pretty much it. Not a lot of complexity there. And I can try out another color. Maybe see if this color. Yeah, this is a little bit redder, so you can use this up at the top for some of the darker hairs in the shadow area. And down here, so just put a few hairs in there of this color. Could you also discuss really fast your overall process with polishing stage and what your main focus will be officially to make it done? Yeah, so for the polishing stage, it's not really a process. It's more of a stage in which I look at the image as a whole. So instead of looking at it like right now, I'm only focused on the arm. I'm not looking at how the shirt and the arm are interacting. I'm not looking at, the background and the colors. I'm not looking at any of that. Right now, and as of, since the beginning of this stream, I've just been focusing all of my attention right on the arm and nowhere else. But when I get into the polishing stage, that's where my focus completely shifts. So instead of looking at it as a drawing or something that I created, instead I try to look at it as a viewer. So like as one of you, I try to I try to step back and when I look at it, if I see something that to me just like feels unbalanced or I feel like something could be improved to look better or look the way that I want it to look, then I make those type of adjustments to where I see the change needed. And at this stage, there's not a lot that needs like fixed or changed or anything like that. It's just that I want the maximum amount of detail, and there's still some broad, some areas of broad pencil direction and whatnot that I can kind of bring out even more details on. So that's kind of the mindset that I go into when I do the polishing stage. Any advice on avoiding pattern? Randomness is a challenge. Absolutely, randomness is a challenge. And the reason that people fall into patterns is because they make the same movement with their hand. So to help avoid making patterns, loosen up on your pencil. Like I'm barely even holding the pencil, it's just a floppy mess in my hand. That prevents me from having any precision in my pencil strokes. So that will help if you just loosen your grip up, relax your hand. The other thing is don't draw with your wrist, because when your arm is stationary and you're moving your wrist, look at the potential movements of the pencils. They're always swiping. They're always creating this same curve here. It's this motion. No matter what you do with your fingers, pretty much you're always going to get that sweep or the back sweep, which is kind of this oval shape. So instead, loosen up on your grip. Don't draw from your wrist. Draw from your your shoulder, move your whole arm. So you can see my wrist is not moving as I'm putting in these hairs. They're just, you know, my whole hand is moving because I'm using my shoulder. You have a lot less fine motor movement with your shoulder, which means each line is kind of going to have its own characteristic. Another thing, you can turn your drawing. So if you find yourself making like the same sort of line, you know, flip your drawing upside down. Maybe I want to put some hairs in, and now, you know, I could never get the motion that I'm doing now if my drawing was right side up, because, you know, it'd be like drawing from the other hand, or, you know, backwards or something. So don't be afraid to move yourself around your drawing, or move your drawing around. And then another thing for randomness is stay away from any type of linear motion. So what I mean by linear motion is, let's say, you know, this is a line here, right? The side of the pencil. And let's say, you know, I'm drawing and I make a hair here, and then I move over a little bit, and maybe I make a different swooping motion for my hair, but let's just say I do this and I kind of work in this linear fashion where I start at this side and I kind of work my way over, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me just move down. So stay away from working linear. Instead, you know, if you struggle working in a more random motion with your hand, instead of doing this, you know, try to do figure eights. You know, that's going to give you a little bit more of a natural look. If you know, I'll put up a hair here, and then I'll think, okay, well, here's the curve of the eight, the figure eight, and then I'll just move around the figure eight. By the time you ever get over here again, you're not even going to know where your figure eight is. You're just going to forget. Eventually, it just becomes natural to work in a non-pattern formation, and it just takes time and experience. So yeah, it's really important with hair to work in non-patterns. So try not to do that. How did I think about my channel name? So I think I got this question earlier in the month. I'm going to zoom out a little bit because I'm pretty much done. For today, but I figured I'll answer that last question about my channel name. But before that, take care, Chrissy. I'll see you over on your live stream. For anyone that is unaware, Xrisart in the live chat, she'll be live streaming in about 45 minutes, and I'll be headed over to that live stream. So don't miss out on that. But back to the question of how I came up with my channel name. It stems from a couple different things. The first is the way I use masking tape. Masking tape is part of my logo also. The mask, the tape is over the eyes. It says Unmask. That's a piece of masking tape. That's the first, like the way that I use masking tape, that's the first kind of part of how I came up with the name, because it was just, there's a longer story to it, but I'm going to keep it short since I'm done for today. The other part is I wanted to kind of like put myself out there a little bit more. I have really bad social anxiety, and I'm socially awkward. And so I always have like a problem like making friends and talking to people, and to help kind of get out of my shell a little bit, or unmask myself, reveal myself, I started a YouTube channel and started, talking to the camera, and now I do live streams, which didn't think I'd ever do. And so part of the name comes from masking tape. The other part of the name just comes from removing my own metaphorical mask and, just being myself. But yeah, so that's where the name comes from. And with that, I am going to call it a day. I know, relatively short live stream today, but I have 2 more days of polishing, and then this is going to be officially done. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on tomorrow's live stream. And if you want to learn more colored pencil or pastel from me, you can join me over on my Patreon page. I also have a website where I sell courses, several courses now. I think I'm up to 4. And then I'm also selling a couple of my original pieces, my original pastel paintings. I have 2 of them for auction on my website. I have a link for that also in the description. But yeah, other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic Wednesday. I'll see you guys over on Chrissy's live stream, and take care. Peace.